Okay, this is my haves and the have-nots review for this week. Okay, this episode was a little bit better than the past couple of ones, which kind of dragged a little bit, but okay, but it's picked up somewhat. So this was much better than the other two. So we start off where we left off last week. Benny has brought Q home, Candace's son. So he brings him home to Hannah, and of course she's overcome with tears and everything. She goes to hug him, and she goes to hug Q, and he goes, "Ow!" And so clearly they suspect that he's been beaten because he was with Quincy's sister, Quita, some hood name like that. I think that's what they say her name was, Quita. And they look at his back, and he's got all these scars and everything, and they're infected. And Hannah says, "Well, we got to get him to the hospital." And Benny's like, "No, we can't do that because he broke into, he kicked in the door. We know last week he kicked in the door and went in at Quincy's sister's house and went in and just got Q. So he's afraid to get the authorities involved, but he wants to call in somebody called Old Man Wilson who owns the farm, the drugstore, something like that." And Hannah's like, "No, no, no." And despite the fear of getting child welfare involved, Hannah is able to persuade Benny to take the child to the hospital. And so Candace is still in New York with Oscar, and they're in bed, and room service comes in and says somebody ordered a bowl of uncooked rice, and she wet up her phone, dropped it in the tub, and she's trying to dry it up, and rice does not work to dry out a phone. I don't know why Tyler Perry put that in there, but it does not work. So, it's kind of a filler scene. Oscar is talking all this game, and I still think he's a plant from David or Jim, from one of them, to get Candace to let her guard down so they can retaliate against her for the things that she's done to Jim, like holding him hostage and all of that. So that was all filler. And so now we see Hannah and Benny at the hospital. Benny can't get Candace on the phone. And Hannah wants to know, well, how did you get Q? How did you get him? He doesn't want to tell Hannah how he got Q. But finally he just says, well, I bailed Quincy out, and I beat him till he told me where Q was. Quincy didn't actually tell him where the child was. After he beat Quincy, he got his wallet and looked in, and he found a picture of the child with Quincy's sister. And so and Hannah, she's afraid of what's going to happen to him. She says, well, Quincy's going to come looking for that child. Then he's like, well, you raised a warrior. And he's like, well, and he says, if he comes for the child, I think he said something like, then he said something like, if he comes for Q, I'll take him out of his dead arms. So he's already angry at Quincy, because Quincy was like, didn't have any remorse for coming in Hannah's house and hitting her and all that. So we know that. So from there we go to the Pryor mansion. Catherine is still reading the diary, and neither one of them, I really believed Candace when she told what happened to Amanda. And Catherine finds out that from reading Amanda's diary that Amanda stalked the professor and she stabbed him in the back. And so Catherine wants the professor to die, so she's like, I want him hung. And so from there we go back to the hospital, and the doctor tells Hannah about Q's condition. So he didn't. Not only did he have the infection from the beating, he also had fractured ribs. And of course, here comes child welfare in. they're always useless. And she comes in, immediately accuses Hannah and Benny of the abuse, and has the police there with them. They're all, child welfare is ready to always jump on the wrong people. I don't know why they held, but I guess because Q was deep in the hood, that neighborhood was a mess. So they're usually not checking in those neighborhoods for cases of child abuse. That's just the way it goes. And so we get to Melissa and Jeffrey. And Melissa's looking a little unhinged. Before, she was kind of like being, as we saw, she was being kind of like passive, like, please, 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 you have to help me. Now she's just in your face, just angry. And Jeffrey's apartment is just like all redecorated. And she said, well, this is my apartment now. Your mother told me that. And he's like, what are you talking about? Where's all my furniture? She had taken all of his furniture and put in all this frilly looking stuff. And then she's just telling him, well, I don't care if you don't want to have this baby, we're having it. And she's like, you're not ever, and he's saying he doesn't want to be a father like this. She said, well, you got no choice. I mean, you're not going to have a baby any other kind of way, so how else are you going to get a child? And she's like, she's angry, but then she says, well, I'm doing this because I love my parents and all that. And then she finally talks some sense. She's asking, well, I know why I'm doing this, but why are you putting up with this? Which was a good question. Well, he's afraid of Veronica because she kept threatening him with that car. She hasn't gotten the car back yet, but I think she's going to try to get it back next week. And so Wyatt, we go to Wyatt at the jail, and his parents come to visit him, and he's crying, tears running down his face. He wants them to get him out of there. And Catherine's like, well, that's up to your father. I don't have anything to do with this. Jim doesn't want him out yet. He still thinks he needs to learn a lesson, and so they leave him. But when they get into the car and are leaving, Catherine says, I want him out of there. He doesn't belong there. That's not for him. And Jim is determined to leave him in there to teach him a lesson about being ungrateful. So he's supposed to be grateful for them framing somebody else for the crime he committed so he could skate on it. Well, whatever. And so he tells Catherine that he's going to stay in there a little bit longer, that he's friends with the guard, he's friends with the prisoner that threatened Wyatt a couple of episodes ago. So it's all good, it's just to scare Wyatt. And so, but Catherine, you can tell she's not really buying it, but she can't do much because Jim is in control of this, all his friends and all that. And let's see. Okay, so we're back at the hospital. Child welfare is asking Q what happened. And of course, he's from one of those neighborhoods, the hood. And so even as a child, you're taught not to tell anything. It's just like, don't snitch, don't snitch. He says he was playing with his cousins and he fell down. And he won't, he doesn't know. So the child welfare can't get the truth out of him. So, and then child welfare, she doesn't want Hannah to see Q. And that's where that ends for now. And then Quincy is in the hospital, and he comes staggering by because Benny beat him up real bad. And, the truck flipped and all that, so he was injured from that. And he comes staggering by, and Benny sees him and gets ready to get up and go after him, but Hannah's like, just don't. And Quincy doesn't see them. He's staggering by. I think he's trying to get in the ER so he can get some medical attention for his wounds, or he was getting out. I'm not sure what he was doing. So Hannah pleads with child welfare to release Q to them. And
What? Okay.
sorry. Um, that's all right. That's all right. Okay. So Hannah pleads with child welfare to release Q to them. Of course, they're not going to do that because they're only going to release him to a biological parent. They want to put him in foster care, which would make the situation worse. But the writing is very close to how child welfare really is, just clueless. Now, Benny, he gets the child welfare lady. He convinces her to let Hannah see Q. He asks her, "Do you have kids?" She says no, and he asks her if she cares about kids, and she said, "Yeah, of course. That's why I'm in this job." And so he's able to talk her into letting them see Q. And then this was a good part. This next part was really good. So Jim, uh, Jim and Catherine go to the college to confront Professor Cannon about what he did to Amanda. At first, he's like, "Well, you have my condolences," and then blah blah blah, all that. And then they ask him, "Were you at Amanda's apartment?" And he's like, "Well, no, would be totally unprofessional." He's a liar. They want to know. He says she took a makeup test, and they say, "Where did she take it?" And he says, "Well, at this college." And so Jim knows what was going on, and so they basically let the professor, "We know what you did to our daughter," and he makes out like it was consensual and all that. Well, I didn't do anything. I didn't know, and he also admits that he knows that she had some sort of mental illness, and because Catherine had told Jim that Amanda had stabbed the professor in the back, Jim kind of squeezes the wound, and the professor's in pain. He's like, "Oh, I had a sports injury there," but he's not buying it, and Jim he just unloads on him. It just knocks him to the ground, starts kicking him, and he's on the ground. He can't do nothing. And if you've ever seen that movie, Baby Cakes, if you've seen the club scene where Hercules' character is on the floor of the club and that girl is just beating her, that's what he reminded me of, the way he was on the ground. And so Catherine says, "Not like this, not like this." I guess she wants worse done to him. And so they leave, but Jim kind of bashes him with the car door as he's leaving, and they go on, and the professor, like, he's just laid out on the ground. He's just laid out on the ground there. And so back at the hospital, Benny's still trying to get a hold of Candace. He can't get a hold of her. Q, he wants his grandmother to take care of him, but of course child welfare is not going to have that. They need the biological parent. And so Candace is still in New York, and this guy Oscar, he's doing all this stuff for and they talk about some merger or something. He says she should have invested. She didn't invest, and it would have turned a good profit, but that's filler. And so Benny calls her, and he says, "Well, we've got your child, we've got your son. You need to get up here." And Q talks to his mother, and he wants her to come get him. He makes her promise that she's gonna come get him, and of course she says yeah. And so Oscar says, "Well, I'll get the jet gassed up so we can get down there, and so we can get back down there." And the last scene is with Wyatt. Okay, so Wyatt is still in jail, of course. And so he had, and this is really bad, because Jim, he thought he had everything under control. He had some prisoner in there, like it was a couple of weeks ago, making out like he was going to do something to Wyatt, but apparently it was all a setup. That was a friend of Jim's. So In comes another prisoner, and Wyatt doesn't know anything about this guy. He's like, well, what happened to so and so? And the guard says, well, he got stabbed in the yard. He's in the infirmary. And so this is a prisoner that is probably not part of the plan. Jim said Wyatt wasn't going to end up in general population, but I don't think this prisoner is in on the plan, and I think Wyatt's going to be in some serious trouble. We don't see Wyatt in the preview, so I think they're trying to keep secret what's going to happen to Wyatt. But obviously, Jim probably did not do a good job at protecting Wyatt and keeping him away from the crazies. And so, in the preview, let me see if I can remember everything. Veronica's at the tow yard and she's coming on to Benny. I don't know if she's doing it just because just because she wants to, or just because she's trying to figure out how to get that stupid car she keeps holding over Jeffrey's head. And then Candace has arrived back in town, and we find out that Hannah has petitioned for custody of Q, and that's going to cause a further rift between Hannah and Candace. So that was the episode. Like I said, it was a lot better than the last couple of episodes. They were okay, but this one had a lot more going on across the board. Less filler, more drama. So it was a good episode. So thank you very much for watching, and tune in next week.